everyone. Welcome to tonight's Restful Resistance. This is a virtual series for Black women to recharge, reclaim, and rebuild political power. We are going to go ahead and get started because I do just want to be mindful and respectful of everyone's time. Today's theme is Mobilizing Black Women Voters by Region. Welcome. We hope that you are all very much excited to be a part of this crucial conversation. Today's conversation explores what it means for Black women to stay engaged in ways that are both meaningful and sustainable while navigating the realities of everyday life. We'll ground both in perspective and lived experiences, to better understand how we build power and how we show up in ways that truly work for us. Welcome. If you are just joining, we've already put in the chat. We would love to know where you are dialing in from. You can feel free to put in your name and your city and or state if you are dialing in outside of California. All right, so tonight's agenda, super excited. We have a really great agenda tonight. We are going to start with our encouragement segment, which is called Pour Into Your Sister, and it's going to be hosted by Empress No into ZK Lalo. Then we will move forward to our fireside chat, which I am excited to moderate with Councilwoman Patrice Williams, along with Dr. Chaya Crowder, finding our way in building confidence and access in civic engagement. Then we'll have a Q&A. We'll go into our joy practice, and then we'll have a few announcements, and then we will close. Okay, so I am so excited. I'm truly honored, actually, to bring up Empress. She is one of our super advocates. We go to Sacramento once a year and to advocate for Black women voices. And again, we do that through the lived stories that are told through our data and research. And every single time we go, Empress is there with us, in tow, excited to uplift the voices of Black women and girls across the state. So I'm super excited to have her to be a part of this conversation. Empress, her life reflects what it means to lead with purpose, care, and community. We invited her into this space because she does embody the spirit of staying engaged, grounded, and connected to the people she serves. So I am going to read her bio. She's Empress Camille No into ZK Lalo Hill is a visionary community leader and director of community relations with the MLK Community Initiative in Bakersfield, California. As a founder of Gladys International Healing Huts, honoring her mother's legacy, she has extended healing work globally, including in Uganda through partnerships with Maker University. Mercury. Thank you so much, Empress. Mercury University, rooted in Africana studies and a lifelong commitment to equity. She continues to advocate for underserved communities in Southeast Bakersfield. She is a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. Empress Camille brings a powerful spirit of service, creativity, and joy to everything she does. Please welcome Empress.
We're so grateful for the gifts of today. And it's a gift to be here with you because there is power in how we pour into one another. I'm honored to hold space during the Pour Into Your Sister segment with the California Black Women's Collective Empowerment Institute. Together, we'll reflect on what it means to lead with purpose, care, and community while staying grounded, engaged, and connected. Why me? I sat in my car trying to gather myself, taking deep breaths, crying. Each child had been dropped off at their respective places. Two-ed babysitters, teenager at school, and our special needs at his program. Once again, I had inserted the invisible steel rod down the center of my being so I could make it through another day, resisting the breakdown that was threatening to happen again. I beat the steering wheel and screamed, "Why me?" Another crumbling marriage, driving 13 miles to a job I loathed, but it provided an income that kept me off the non-sustaining funds of welfare. Why, they even wanted to do a story on me because I was not, at that time, the typical single parent. I had a good paying job, but oh, what a cost to my sanity. Immediately, I heard a voice respond, "Why not you?" It continued, "I must take you through some things because one day you're going to share your story with other sisters like you. You're going to tell them, you will get past this. This too shall pass. You will get to the other side. I know because I did. You are strong now and becoming stronger as you learn how to navigate choppy waters that threaten to take you under. You learn how to pour into yourself so that you can pour into others, trying to find their paths of their journey. You will find yourself one day in a space just like this, sharing an excerpt from your book, encouraging them to follow your purpose with intention. Know you are ancestor kissed, that you are standing on their shoulders, those same resilient ancestors who put their lives on the line to have their voices heard by casting their vote, paving the way for us to continue to have a voice in the decisions that are being made about our quality of life every day. Be intentional about your time, where you spend it, who you spend it with, your energy, who are you sharing it with. Be real cognizant about who you hug. That's important because that's a sharing of energy. And always be intentional about passing the torch, which is what we are doing today. To those who are, we know that must come, and we become the shoulders that they stand on. Do whatever you need to do to reground, to reconnect, to recalibrate. If it's meditation, I walked out into my garden of flowers and herbs and trees before this moment today so that I could be able to pour into you, asking, please pour into me what you want me to pour into them. We are grateful today for the gifts of today. I woke up, I got out of bed, my mind is still brilliant, it's still intact, we're still moving forward. And in our 81st year, we are still in community, but being very intentional. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Empress, so much for that. Some takeaways that I took from that is you have to tell your story. That's number one. You will get to the other side. That's number two. And the ancestors kiss was my favorite because I feel like sometimes we forget about that they led the way, they created the pathway, and they're still with us as we continue to go through this journey. And then one of my favorites is be intentional about your time and your space and your energy. I feel like that is so crucial when we think about showing up and just being present and being in community. We still should always be mindful about how much time we're giving, who we're giving it to, and where we're giving it. And then also, my favorite is grateful for the gifts of today. We are grateful for you, Empress. Thank you so, so, so much for coming and blessing us and giving us those encouraging words to start this conversation off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So we are moving right along. Um, super, super excited. We have our fireside chat that's getting ready to get started. We will have a moment for question and answers at the end. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask our panel, please put them in the chat. We will be sure to make some time for them. Otherwise, at the end of the conversation, you can use the raise hand feature and ask your questions at that time. Okay, for our first panelist, Dr. Chaya Crowder. Dr. Chaya Crowder is an associate professor at Loyola Marymount University, whose work centers on how Black women navigate political engagement through the lens of race, gender, and lived experience. With a PhD from Princeton University, her teaching and writing explore how identity shapes participation, voice, and connection to civic life. Her award-winning book, Intersectional Solidarity, examines how shared experiences of racial and gender discrimination influence how Black women engage, advocate, and show up in political spaces. Through her work, Dr. Crowder helps us better understand the deeper motivations behind engagement and how we can create pathways that are not only impactful, but sustainable. She brings a thoughtful and grounded perspective on what it means to participate in ways that honor both our power and our capacity. Welcome, Dr. Crowder.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited for this conversation, and I look forward to being in community with everyone today.
Thank you. Meet Councilwoman K. Patrice Williams. Honorable K. Patrice Williams is a Fairfield City Councilwoman and former charter president of the Solano Napa chapter of Black Women Organized for Political Action, also known as BWAPA. At that time, recognizing a strong desire among Black women across Solano County to mobilize, she led a county-wide voter engagement effort using a train the trainer model that equipped community leaders to register voters at school, events, movie theaters, marches, and community gatherings in partnership with the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, the Link, APAPA, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and others. This work resulted in over 10,000, I'm going to repeat that, in over 10,000 new voter registrations and helped drive a 64.1% voter turnout, the highest in Solano County in over 2 decades. Amazing. Councilwoman Williams continues to focus on expanding access, building confidence, and creating pathways for meaningful civic engagement. Welcome, Councilwoman Williams.
Thrilled to be here with you all.
Thank you so much. So I am going to start off with addressing the 10,000 new voter registrants. So tell us, please, what the train the trainer model is and what made that level of engagement possible.
So I'm still as stunned about it as I was all those years about it, all those years. What I felt in the community when I was going to different events throughout Solano County was I just felt like this energy amongst Black women to gather and to do something together. It was this interesting time where our elders, they were shifting into retirement. They were, just kind of refinding themselves as retired people. And then my age group, I'm 56 now, and this was about 8 years ago. I could just, my age group, we were a little bit more settled, settled in our jobs, settled in our careers, settled in our education, had more money, and now we were ready to get engaged. And I just felt it. And I explain all that because as we're all in our cities, in our counties, you'll feel it when people are ready to do something, and they're just waiting for that call. And so that call was BWAPA. I spoke to the president, Miss Desi at the time, and I said, Solano County, we're ready. She's like, I don't think so. So, just follow Richmond. I followed Richmond. I was like, Miss Desi, we're ready. So I came up with a plan, a strategic plan, and it was surrounding voter registration. And so all I did was make a few calls, and 50 women and one man joined together to charter our BWAPA chapter. And all I did was make a few calls. I made a few calls, other people made a few calls, and it just compounded. So I, ego free, I just said, I don't know what I'm doing. I just feel like we need to do something. And I think it anchors with voter registration. That's how we can make a chance. And they saw my heart in it. They saw the game plan, and we just got to work. We all made sure we knew how to register voters. And we said, let's go to other organizations, let's go to churches, let's just go to all these organizations that we are a part of. Let's all do voter registrations. Let's have events. Let's go see kids. Let's go to movie theaters. Let's just do it. And I'm looking at the numbers at the registrar's office increase of registration. That's the only reason why I know the number, because I tracked it from when we started to when we ended. And before we knew it, that number hit 10,000, but we couldn't have done it. We couldn't have done it if it was like, oh, I'm Patrice Williams and I'm going to stand outside of the Safeway and do this myself. It had to take us all making that lift. So anyway, I don't want to over talk, but that's how we did it.
I think all of us ears are glued right now, because that 10,000 number is very impressive. And one thing I just want to piggyback on is when you talked about how you made a few calls, and I thought about, wow, how important relationships are, because you didn't make 50 calls, you made a few calls, and then it had a domino effect. And then also, when you talked about the heart in the game plan, I went to a talk this past Saturday, and they said potential plus plan is power. No, wait, passion plus planning is power. And then passion without planning is potential. But you took it and you made this powerful. So thank you for starting that in Solano County. And I know other counties are just eager to get that number as high as you did. So thank you for setting that tone. A question for both of you. What does meaningful political engagement look like for Black women right now? Considering their real life responsibilities and everything that they're carrying, that they have going on, what does it look like?
So I'll just lean into the theme of, tonight's call, Restful Resistance. Black women continue to be the backbone of the Democratic Party, and they turn out at incredibly high numbers. And we kind of have to keep in mind that our 50% is a lot of other communities' 100%. And so even when we are at rest, we're continuing to do a lot of work. And really just piggybacking on some of the remarks by, the councilwoman, what was really important was in registering those 10,000 voters was how connected she was to her community. Because she was able to pick up the phone and make a few calls, and those people made a few more calls. And so something that we can all continue to do in this moment is to sort of divest from whatever's draining us, whether that's the algorithm online, people kind of draining your energy, also referring back to, the words from Empress, and invest in community, real tangible community, so that when you do hear that call to get engaged, like the councilwoman was saying, you're connected and have real community relationships that are meaningful and rooted, and you're able to make a meaningful impact.
Thank you. Councilwoman, did you want to add anything to that, to Dr. Crowder?
Dr. Crowder, that was perfect. I have nothing to add to that.
Okay, well, Dr. Crowder, this next question is specifically for you. Sometimes it's not even about the motivation, right? It's about the small details, like understanding something as simple as how to return your ballot and when to sit in it. From what you've seen, what are some of the biggest barriers shaping how Black women engage or they don't engage? And how much of that is access versus feeling like this space just isn't for me?
Thank you for that question. And it's a really good one. So I think, especially in the state of California, we are in the place in the country where it is the easiest to vote. If you want to do same day registration, you can do that. Vote by mail, everyone's getting their ballots in the mail. And so when it comes to access to the ballot, here in California, that is incredibly high. But what is low, and maybe particularly among Black women, is political efficacy. And so in political science, that refers to just this idea that like my voice and my vote matters, that people in elected office care about people like me. And when you think about whether it's access or, emotions or something else, there's a political scientist, Davin Phoenix, and he has really interesting research that focuses on the role of the emotion of hope in the Black community. And so in his research, he finds that, when white people, when they get angry, they get mobilized, they can't believe this happened to them. This is the worst thing ever. And we're turning out to the polls. How dare they? Black people are used to being disappointed, especially by our political system. And so when Black people are angry or disappointed, that doesn't really mobilize them. But a feeling that the Black community has a lot less often is hope. And so when Black folks feel hopeful, they turn out in high numbers. And so when I think about what we need in order to see increased meaningful, because Black women turn out regardless, whether they like the candidate or not, whether they're hopeful or not. But when we see hope, thinking about 2008 with Obama, 2012, even thinking about the recent mayoral election in New York City, in those instances, turnout can be quite high.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I understand that because I feel like hope drives a lot of the things that we do, especially as Black people. And going back to thinking about our ancestors, of the hope that they embodied and how much that did move the needle, did move things for us. So I feel like hope is, it's the driving force. It definitely is the driving force. Councilwoman Williams, what barriers did you see people navigating in real time during your campaign 3 years ago? And how did that show up during your campaign?
Yeah. So what I saw was how busy people were, how busy the, Black women were. We're, navigating children, we're navigating their schedules, we're navigating our schedules, we're navigating saying no. I didn't think we were really saying no. We were saying yes to everything. We're not putting ourselves first. I saw, Black women that were worn out. And so, so continuously I saw that. But what was really wonderful was they would do what they could. So if that's time on Facebook to just share, the message about my campaign. If it was to share, I feel like I was supposed to be a teacher. I usually kind of educate and post, and this is what's going on. Let me tell you about it. So they would share, they would text, they would send messages. So just those in my mind, I'm imagining women in bed or making their coffee, or and they're doing that little thing. And I tell you, I was so moved by the willingness to give what they could. So I ran a campaign at $20.22. And I was getting all these donations for $20.22. And I see a good friend that did that as too. I can see you, Tanya. Hey, how are you? Where she was the first person that put that on automatic payment, put an amount on automatic payment. So and she was one of many. So it started to build. So I knew I had a base of money. I knew X amount was coming in, so I could do my social media spends. Once I added this month and this month, boom, that's another postcard. I was just stitching together money. And that was because, Black women were thoughtful enough to say, let me sow into this campaign, and a bunch of a little bit will make a lot.
Thank you. I love that. Two things that I'm going to bring up is from Dr. Crowder, where she talked about the hope, and then you talked about doing what you can. I feel like those two go hand in hand, and oftentimes what we think motivate Black women is not actually what motivates Black women. So just on that coattail, when we think of what motivates or reaches Black women, where have you seen a gap between what we think works and what actually works in real life? And that's to both of you. Any one of you can answer that question.
Okay, so in terms of what doesn't work, pandering. I feel like Black women have become acutely aware that having hot sauce in your bag, and some of us know exactly what candidate I'm talking about, does not necessarily mean that you have a meaningful commitment to Black women or the Black community. And there was a recent book by a political scientist, Julian Wamble, called We Choose You. And in that book, he focuses on the ways in which Black people don't mobilize behind just any Black candidate. Descriptive representation alone is not enough to get people to support someone, but they need to know that you actually have community commitments, and that you're actually connected to the community, and that you prioritize the policy interest that Black folks care about. And so I think, it's going beyond pandering and showing that substantive commitment. At the same time, with Black women in particular, Black women have a very strong sense of civic duty. And so even when people fall short of our expectations, in my own research, along with other co-authors, we find that Black women, even if a candidate is not their favorite person, they're going to turn out in relatively high numbers because of this commitment to civic duty and this feeling that, this is something bigger than us individually, and that it's about the collective.
About the collective is huge because it's in our name. We definitely follow that model. Councilwoman Williams.
Yeah, this is definitely an add-on to you, Dr. Crowder. What I know about Black women is we know authenticity, and we know when it's not there too. And so when you come as you are, and really show up. Black women see it, the community sees it. Which is, for those listening that's looking for nuggets, just to let you know, there's we're in districts in the city of Fairfield. And so there's only 11% Black people in my district. So yes, I'm sure it's a base, but it's a broad coalition that got me into office, including labor, various youth groups. I won with 12 provisional votes. That's people that came that day and said, I'm not registered to vote. Day of, I would like to vote, and I would like to vote for her. They went out their way to do that. My then 19-year-old said those were his friends. I don't know, but it's a Black conversation, but there's this amazingness in us that has a broad reach. It's a sparkle in us that other women, other men, men that, really smart women, or, it's a broad approach, because in a lot of our districts and counties, you cannot win on a black vote alone, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you both for answering that question. Councilwoman, you kind of talked about this a little bit, and I want to talk about that sparkle that you just talked about, because you did win your last campaign or your election by 12 votes. And if it was your son's 19-year-old friend or not, we don't know. We just glad we got the vote. It shows just how much every voice matters. Like you just said, Black, white, race doesn't matter. Every voice matters. What do you think helped people move from caring to actually showing up? And were some of the ways you connected with your community, and what were some of the ways that you did connect with your community to make them feel seen?
Yeah, so I still do. I show up. So I'm invited to Christmas parties, to Santa Claus, to go see Santa Claus, and to go, have cocoa with the kids. I'm there. I try to, and they know I can't stay long, but because I try to hit as much as I can. But I try to really allow people to see me, ask me any questions they want. I'm very visible on social media. I have posts that get 20,000 engagements. And it's kind of funny because you don't see likes or comments, but when I'm at the Safeway, hey, Patrice, I have a question for you. I was helping at the food bank. 3 people on the line were like, hey, Patrice, I know exactly who you are. And okay, what's happening with this? What's happening with the quo warranto with the mayor? Does she really live in what's happened? And then I do this behind the dais. So I think it's refreshing for people that I'm going to say exactly what is happening. And if I don't know, I'll say that too. But I think, that's another way of saying authentic. I think I'm authentic and maybe a little bolder than most. I don't care about the smoke, but I think people think that's refreshing, and I've only just gotten deeper in that as over the last 3 years. It's one thing to be a candidate and be that way. Now, as an elected official, saying what I feel like it. Yeah.
That's a no. You can't say how you feel exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna tell you. Yeah, unless it's closed session stuff, I'm absolutely gonna say it. So yeah, so that's a big piece. And it was another piece of the question that you asked, and now I don't remember it. So
Well, you had answered what ways so the question was, what do you think helped move people from caring to actually showing up? And what were some of the ways you connected with your community that made people feel seen in that process? I feel like you answered both with your answer, but if there's
yeah.
anything you want to add.
Yeah, one little thing I would like to add. I think also people are so hyper focused on presidential campaigns and campaigns for the governor, and they don't realize the impact that local politics has on their lives. From this street is a mess. What is going on with the homeless? What is going on with this no, there's always this noise of motorcyclists going up and down, and it's dangerous. um um uh so everything from trash pickup to police to safety, all that lives within my purview on the city council. I vote on all of those, and I have made specific changes based on it. So when you let people know why their vote matters, that makes them, it's a education thing. They just don't know. You're just busy at life trying to just navigate, and you don't know. So when people know, like, this is why this matters, and I will tell you 3 years later, I can tell you for sure it matters, because the person that came in 12 votes under me, it would be a very different city council. There's a lot of times where I'm a swing vote. I don't know if we did this vote on this low income project, and it was 4-3. So if that other person, that project would not have passed. And there's a lot of other things that just would have gone a different way. This is a very different thinker. Not to bash her, but she's just very different. And it would be the last 3 years would have been very different in my city.
Well, we do appreciate those last 12 votes that came in to get you over that winning threshold, for you to be there. And like you mentioned, being authentic with your audience, I feel like is key. And local government, of just, those are the things that are down the street from you, so it's closer to home. So being authentic, being real, answering questions, being honest when you don't know, all those characteristics are the sparkle that you talk about and that people really do appreciate in an elected official. You had talked about, you said busy at life. I feel like that was one of the sole points of conversation here today. So I'm just going to switch to Dr. Crowder. As we do know that there are still gaps, not just in turnout, but also making sure that people understand the process and feel confident navigating it. What have you noticed that actually works when it comes to reaching people who might not already be engaged?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to meet people where they are. And so in 2026, that often means online. And so, Councilwoman Williams did a great job of kind of talking about her online presence and the way in which she informs her constituents by posting on social media. And whether or not, you have a following like Councilwoman Williams, you have friends and family who are following you on your platforms. And by you sharing information, about who you're going to be voting for in the June primary or what issues are on your ballot, you are the most influential influencers in your friends and family's lives. And so they'll see that. And then they're like, oh, okay, wait, hold on. My Aunt Phyllis posted something. Let me go see what Aunt Phil said, so that way I can fill out my ballot in the way she told me to do it, There's a political scientist, Marcus Pryor, and he writes about, the proliferation of cable news, how people thought, okay, there's going to be all this access to all these different channels. People will be more informed. But instead, it made it easier for people to disengage and say, hey, I only watch the Food Network. I only watch OWN. I'm not consuming political information. I don't pay attention to politics. But the interesting thing about like our social media news feeds is you might not be there for politics. You might just be there for friends and family. But if your friends and family are sharing political information, then you will come across that anyway. And so I think that's a great way to kind of share information and meet folks where they are.
Thank you. Councilwoman, did you have anything to add?
No, I love that point so much. Even before I was in elected office, I would get those calls that said, hey, explain this ballot to me, or explain these props, or or some of them, they don't want an explanation. What are you doing? So then, so even before I was elected, I was putting out, ballot card, my ballot card. And I know that moved votes. And actually that's how we, how did we have the high? So 10,000 new registered voters, but how do we get the turnout? That's how we were all putting out our ballot cards or adopting one that we felt strongly about and getting it out. And so that made it easy for people. All they had to do is take it. If they, had to go to the polls, or they would have their whole family doing it, or members of their church doing it. That is a way to move some votes.
Community. Yes. Yes. Family, community. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, Councilwoman. I'm going to ask you, what does sustainable engagement look like without burnout for our audience?
It absolutely involves self-care. A little earlier I said saying, a lot of Black women, they're saying yes to too much. They're just going. And the amount of conversations I have about saying no, like it's still kind of, it bothers me. And that's why I take the time to do it. If we're not our best selves, we cannot hold the mantle for our family, for our community. So it really is, it feels a little selfish when you first start saying no, but I promise that goes away. Just keep on doing it, because nothing matters than us trying to, us being in our best health and our best self. So what people don't realize about me, because I am out in the community a lot, but I'm also not. I also, do videos of me, just having fun. I just went to a pasta making class, or when I'm a foodie, so I love experiencing new foods and go here and visit this restaurant and visit this small business. So that's a part of my thing too, but that's all in self-care. That's all stuff that I love, and we have to do that stuff that we love and hold space for it. I was surrounded by all men. My husband, we had 2 boys. And so I had to teach them how to treat me, because they seemed like they were fine with me running myself ragged. And I'm like, you know what? So this weekend, I'm going on a vacation. I am going to the spa, and I will see you Monday morning. Wait, what?
The mom of 2 boys, I can relate.
Yeah, so we have to teach them, right, Doc? We got to teach them. So, yeah. Self-care.
No, self-care. Self-care. I love that. I'm trying to think which direction I want to go into, because I feel like we always talk about the collectiveness of Black women, and this is the story of Black women. But Dr. Crowder, I wonder if you can touch briefly on how Black women are as a collective, but we have the experiences that are monolithic. What differences do you see across regions when it comes to engagement?
Yeah, so I think it is really important to talk about the diversity that exists within our community, because there is this impulse to see us as this sort of like homogenized block. And in part, it's because oftentimes when we're looking at Black women's political engagement, the only outcome that we look at is vote choice. And, thinking in the 2024 president, 92%, it's always an overwhelming majority of Black women who support the Democratic Party. And so that leads to an impulse to be like, okay, well, they're a collective, they vote the same. But in actuality, there's a lot of nuance there, and there are differences in terms of our policy preferences and in terms of our priorities. When we think about differences that we're seeing based on region, kind of going back to that first question with regard to what mobilizes people, we're in California, and California is, for the most part, though things are seeming shaky potentially in this upcoming primary, it's a pretty solidly Democratic voting bloc. But when you are in a swing state, that feeling of political efficacy automatically goes up, because you're like, my vote does matter because of what's happening in terms of the top of the ticket, looking at the presidential election. But again, keeping in mind what Councilwoman Williams said, it is really important that we are voting down ballot. What's happening locally is what's going to have an impact on our daily lives and our lived experience. And so even if you may feel disengaged with what's happening at the top of the ticket, it's incredibly important to kind of pay attention, to the county supervisors, your city council members, and, ensure that the things that are happening on the ground in your community reflect your interest. And so that's across the board. So yes, there are regional differences, and in some places people feel like their vote matters, but in actuality, at the local level, everybody's vote matters the same, no matter where you are.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Councilwoman, looked like you wanted to add something, maybe.
Does it look like I'm thinking?
It does. I see you.
No, I love that. I was just thinking, I have kind of tunnel vision, and I'm super not just focused in my city, but Solano County. So I feel like I think about Solano County as a whole, but I don't think about the other counties as much. So I'm just hoping. So I was just thinking that, boy, I don't have a good comparison. Even though I feel like the LA area kind of has it together. I hear they do. I'm 6 hours away. I don't really know, but I feel like y'all have got it popping.
One thing though that I will add, we're thinking about regional differences, but when it comes to Black women, we have so many different experiences. And when we think about like our intersectional marginalization, it's like Black women collectively experience marginalization at the intersection of our race and gender. But, right now, immigration is a huge issue. There's ICE raids happening, across the country, but in LA in particular, we oftentimes think about that as a Latino issue, but there are Black undocumented people, Black transgender women, Black LGBTQIA identified women, Black people with a range of disabilities. And so when we consider, these sort of different axes of marginalization that Black women experience, we also have different priorities when it comes to those issues as well. And hopefully feel some sense of interconnectedness, or in my book, I call it intersectional solidarity, with Black women who might be experiencing an axis of marginalization that's not the same as our own.
Thank you. Thank you both. I'm looking at the time, so I just have one question for you all, just to give our audience a chance to, if they have any questions, to ask you some questions. If someone here in this space right now is thinking, I do want to do something to help mobilize my community, but I don't have a lot of time, what is one realistic place that they can start?
I like the idea that Councilwoman Williams suggested in terms of like sharing a voter guide, we all have to kind of prepare our ballots. And let's be honest, by virtue of deciding to be on this call at 6:30 p.m. on a Monday night, this is a uniquely civically engaged group. And so my instinct says that within this community, y'all are going to know what your ballots are looking like, or you're going to know someone who knows what your ballot is looking like. And so I think that, sharing out those voter guides with friends and family could be helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And just knowing that I have a feeling everyone on this call, we're super influencers. Can you influence 50 or more votes? And I bet you can. I bet you can. I bet you can. And so those voter guides, that's definitely a great way to do it. But also, I've seen people, take on their own flair where they know they're really great at webinars. So they'll record a webinar of different topics, or they will gather with their sororities or clubs or, all the kids, a parent group, a mother group, they all their kids go to, to a club, Taekwondo, and then what are they, they're doing something that moves the needle, or they're doing a postcard campaign. There's so many, when especially, winning by 12, like it just doesn't take much to move the needle. It's amazing how much influence we have. We really are all super influencers. And so know that and figure out in your own sphere, how do you tap into your sphere? So.
Okay, perfect. Does anyone have any, thank you, first of all, Dr. Chaya Crowder, and Dr. K. Patrice. It looks like we do have a question from Wendy. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. This is such a beautiful moment here. I'm just so thankful to be in this space and this energy with you all, and with Miss Empress, with that opening remark, it just really soothed my heart and my spirit. I'm going through so much, being a leader in so many different spaces. I know we all can relate, but I'm just wondering, how do we stay in touch with you all? How do we maintain a connection? Because I'm going to need to reach out.
Oh, well, Dr. Crowder, I'll let you respond, but I do have a way to connect with Dr. Williams at the end of this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm I don't know, I'm encouraged by the energy on this call and, some of the things said by by Councilwoman Williams. Recently, I took a break from social media, and so you won't find me there. But now I'm like, oh, before the primary, I might have to get back on. I might have to share some voter guides. But for now, I'm always available through email, and I always feel very free saying, reach out to me by email, because wherever I go, I say, okay, my email is shaya.crowder@lmu.edu. And most people aren't going to take you up on it, but I'm open for it. Okay. So you can email me, and I encourage you to do that because I'm putting it out there. I'm open for communication. And so please feel free to reach out to me through email.
I'm talking.
I too
to hear me.
am available.
Oh, Empress?
Yes.
Yes, Empress.
I too, am available by email, by phone, and I usually I am discretionary about who I do speak with, because I do conserve my energy. But if my spirit leads me, I do follow through. So I am available.
Thank you, Empress. I will be sure that everyone gets your contact information. Dr. Crowder and Dr. Williams, I'll include it all in the post email. I do want to go to the chat. I have a question. What about elections where electoral college or determining a factor? A determining factor. What about elections?
Yeah. So in that question, they're kind of asking, well, in the presidential election, we already know all of the electors in our state are going a certain way. Do I really need to turn in my ballot? And I think it goes back to what both me and Councilwoman Williams were saying. There's a lot of other stuff on that ballot. So yes, there's the president at the top of the ballot, but it's important to make sure that you're voting down ballot. In California, we have tons of propositions on the ballot. You have local elections that are happening on the ballot. So even in an election that might be determined by the Electoral College every 4 years, we have the presidential election when you might feel like what you do at the top of the ballot might not matter. It's important to pay attention to what you're doing down ballot.
Thank you, Dr. Crowder. I have another question in the chat that I'm going to get to you that has your hand raised. In what ways has embracing rest shifted how you show up in your life or work, directed to both ladies?
Was the question about rest?
Yes.
I'm getting
embracing rest. I love it.
I am known that I don't really, if I'm not at an event, what have you, I'm at home, I'm in bed by 7, 8 tops. And if I'm up, I'm not talking. So you know what? There's something about good sleep. I could feel overwhelmed when I go, or how am I going to unwind this? There's something about a good night's sleep that when you wake up, you feel like you can tackle anything, or your brain has rested and it's unwinding, what the solution is. Also, I have discovered in my 50s the beauty of a weighted blanket.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And a heated blanket, even in the summer. So when I put that weighted blanket over me and I don't even move, it's a wonderful thing. So anyway.
That sounds amazing. I still have very small littles, so I'm dunking one in the bath right after the other. But I also am very big on getting my sleep. So I need 7 to 8 hours a night. And so I might not be in bed by 7, but a lot of times by 8:30, I'm rubbing my feet under those covers. Okay. If they're in bed, so am I. And so I think that, rest is an incredibly important part of resistance. Black women do a lot for everyone else. And it's important that we invest some of that same energy in ourselves. And we have to kind of restore ourselves.
Thank you. I am going to go here. Is it Ami? Okay. You can come off mute, Ami. I can help you. Oh, it won't let me. Uh-oh. I'm just going to move to Rita really quickly, and then we're going to come back to you once you come off of mute, okay?
Good
Rita?
evening. Yes,
Hi.
hello. Good evening, ladies, and thank you so much for your sharing. And I know you, Patrice, and I'm just so impressed, with your sharing. And I really appreciate Dr. Crowder's, honestly, your presentation, particularly the books that you quoted. So I'd like to get a list of those, because one of the things that I've learned personally is in California, I think we're in a bubble. The other world is, the other states, their political environment is so much different. But my takeaway, number one, is to make sure of self-care and how much we can influence one another's. So thank you. And Karina, I almost didn't join you on Monday, and I thought I need to be with my sisters. And so thank you for hosting this.
Thank you, Rita. We're glad you made it to the circle.
Yes. And everyone on the call, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Your voice, Rita.
Ami,
I am here, actually. Thank you so much. You did such a great job. You ladies are just awesome. I am very proud of you. One of the things I want to encourage each one of you, remember your foundation, faith in God. It makes the world a difference in everything. You are prayed for. We have a group that pray for all women, men, but especially Black women on the front line. Do not minimize this. You are important. You make a difference. It doesn't matter what you touch. God is with you. You are loved. You are needed. You make a difference. And each one of you, remember, eat your live food, get your sleep, forgive people, because the pericardium in your heart doesn't function properly when you don't forgive people. You got to let it go. Be thankful. Use your gift. You ladies make a world of difference, and the world will see that you are the one that have carried the torch of life. And the scripture said, the righteous inherit the earth. You are doing it right. Don't back up. We love you. I'm almost 83. I do about 17 to 80,000 steps per day working in the community with the young lady that we want to see that she's part of actually changing the community. We clean up, we pray, we deal with the unhoused, we pick up trash because we must take the responsibility that Sojourner took. Harriet took. They didn't have anybody to vote them in. They just did what was right. So you ladies, we love you. Don't ever think of giving up because your time and your breath makes a difference in the lives of so many children. We love you. Thank you for this platform and God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless
thank
you.
you. Yes, God bless you. Thank you so much for coming to bless us with those words. I have one more question in the chat for this evening. She says, Missouri, thank you, Councilwoman K. Patrice Williams, for touching on self-care because as Black women, we are indeed strong because it's not a negative. But it's also crucial to recondition our families that it's time for us to move into realistic roles where we are preserving ourselves. What do you think? Oh, okay, Zuri, did you want to finish that question for Zuri said, what do you think of this
Yeah.
change for the Black community as a whole? Okay, go ahead,
Yes,
Zuri, you got it.
I did. I am just once again so blessed to have this platform. I was with y'all last year at the legislative office. Karina Crump tore it up, and the whole panel did that at the Capitol. And I was blessed to be there for half the day. And as she talked about, and as our councilwomen and our elected official, Ms. Crowder, talked about, we were sitting there, these wonderful legislative offices, and a lot of the platform was advocating for issues outside of us. That is how much we care when we come to the table. We're advocating for folks outside of us. And because of our strength and resilience, it's natural. There's nothing wrong with having strength. And I think sometimes they want to take that label away, and we're allowing them to, when it will really erase, it's a form of erasure of all the triumphs and all of the wins that we've made with our strength and our resilience. But two things can happen at once. Well, we are strong. I believe that majority of us are strong in order to get through some of the trials we've gone through. We also need to, as not just in our families, but as the Black community, recondition that role into a more realistic role that is fitting, where we are able to add self-care, have it be realistic. As we talked about, we're not monolith people, so we all have different places within our neighborhoods, our families, and as when Councilwoman Williams talked about that, everyone was nodding because we're probably all going through that. So I just wanted to bring that up and just think just this wonderful platform that does so much. Just a great group. And like I said, we just naturally are strong until we think of others. When we are, when we do get the floor, we're not even just thinking of ourselves, we're still thinking of others. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zuri. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to pull up here. Most of you have gotten their contact information in the chat, but just in case, I will be sure to putting in my post email to everyone. And then I just want to share these beautiful slides that they did send over to me, just so that you have their both Dr. Crowder's and Councilwoman Williams' contact information after today's call. And then here's that beautiful book. The cover is gorgeous, Dr. Crowder.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. The link that I shared is from Reparations Bookstore, which is a Black woman-owned bookstore in Los Angeles. So of course you can buy it anywhere you can buy books, but let's support our local Black woman-owned businesses.
Absolutely. Thank you for that plug as well. And I am just putting in the link to the book, but again, all of this will be in the post email. Thank you, Dr. Chaya Crowder. Thank you so much, Councilwoman Patrice Williams. We appreciate you saying yes to this conversation and giving us your time. Truly invaluable. I know that it's close to, it sounds like a lot of people in the bedtime, it's close to bedtime, so I'm going to be very quick and brief with this joy practice. We always like to start the conversation with an encouragement moment, and just to close us out on a joyful note, I just would like for us to, before we move on, if we can take a moment to come back to ourselves after all of that valuable information, beautiful Q&A session, blessings that came our way. If we could just take a moment to take a deep breath in and release. Another breath in and release. I just want you to say that you don't have to carry every single thing that came from this conversation, but just to take what is yours. And with that said, I am just going to go to our announcements. If you have missed any of our previous conversations, you can still go back. You can experience them all using this QR code here. I will be sure I will add that to the chat as well. Just in case you want to go back. But again, I'll put all of this in the post-event email that will come out to you. And then if you are not a member of the California Black Women's Collective Empowerment Institute, we would love to have you. You can scan this QR code, or you can use this link to, oh, thank you. My colleague is in there already grabbing it for me. I appreciate you, Keisha. You can also use this link to register and to become a member. I want to thank every single one of you for coming back into this space. I know that we took a small break, but thank you for coming back into this space and fellowshipping with us and being a part of this conversation. We truly appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great night, everyone.